Good evening, everyone. Very nice to be here. Want to thank Ainsworth for the invitation to be here. And also want to thank the leadership also of the Local 79. And I was telling Uzma, when I came through the door and I saw it said Local 79, I thought this was a great thing. A different book list has just moved from the west side of the street to the east side of the street. And we've moved from 746 Bathurst Street to 777 to 779, right? Yes. So I looked at the 79 and I thought, I'm on a good thing, yes. I want to acknowledge to the other speakers, Brother Don, Sister Lily, and also Sister Felicia, and I would be amiss not to acknowledge two other people. This is my good sister girlfriend, Valerie Joseph, who is in the trenches here in the trade union movement, and back in the back, who is always watching our back, is none other than Brother Norman Otis Richmond, who over the years on CKLN consistently and continue to do that on diasporic radio, bring us progressive politics and also to keeps us vigilant and on point. And when I was asked to speak today, a million things popped off in my head. And I was born in this country in a sexy place called Scarborough. And I went to live with my grandparents in Barbados. My mother was a woman who came on the domestic program in the 1950s from Barbados. And she came here, her name is Gloria Emmeline Walcott. And she came here around the age of 16 and 17 as a new immigrant to this country. She landed in Montreal, in a nation that speaks French. She didn't know the language. I think she landed in the middle of winter. And here is this young woman from Barbados coming to this new country. And she then sent me to Barbados because she understood that great things happen in small places, just like Caribbean nations. And one of the good things of having that experience in Barbados, that I saw people who looked like me, who was desirous to have independence and run a nation and run government. But I was also mindful of the road of trade unions in Barbados. So because I'm in the space of trade unionism, I have to acknowledge that shaping and foundation of my experience here in Canada. And one of the things about trade unionists in Barbados, and I remember there's a man by the name of Frank Walcott, and I always reference him. And he was like one of the scholars and one of the men of Barbados. And he was sent to London to study labor studies. When Frank Walcott went to London, he didn't go as just Frank, but he went as a son of the nation. And the entire nation of Barbados monitored his studies and activities all along the way. And I remember my grandmother, who was born in 1908, would always reference the role of labor in uplifting working class people, in particular people of African descent in the nation. And Frank would send us correspondence back and forth. This is what I'm studying. The sun in London is cold. And we thought he was a madman telling me that the sun in London is cold. One day in Canada, when I look outside and I put my head outside the window, I understood in that moment the sun in Canada is cold too, right? And growing up in the nation of Barbados and seeing and being surrounded with brilliant minds, with activity, with intellectuals, with educators, with people who also every single day carried produce on their heads, women who supported the economics of the marketplace, black women who could balance a tray, walk up a hill, and never once that tray would just fall off their heads. And those same women on some days would sell one banana. And then the next day they would come again and still be selling. Some days they sold all their produce. But we were mindful as children that they were part of a market economy and they were business people and entrepreneurs just like Viola Desmond. And when I heard that Viola Desmond was going to be on Money, I got excited about that. Because also, not apart from the fact that she's one of the few women of African descent on Money, but because the money has value. Because anytime people of African descent are on dollars or on currency, oftentimes that currency is devalued. You see your country small on a map, so you're insignificant. But you also see there's devaluation of your dollar and money, so that too makes you insignificant. So the first thought that I had is, please, dear Lord, don't let the Canadian dollar be devalued more now that the woman get to be on the $10 bill. Yeah? That was the first thought that I had. And then the second thought that I had was this. Here we are as a different book list located at Bathurst and Bloor, a street which is a street of history of African people, people out of the Caribbean experience. And people who came to do business on that street. People like Beverly Maskell, who too came from Nova Scotia, who too was in the beauty business, who too was in the hairdressing business. And when she saw the racism within makeup and skincare products and the lack of that so that we could feel good and look good, she made an effort to address that. Something simple so that we could even feel better about the beauty of ourselves. So again, Viola Desmond also reminds me of the tradition of entrepreneurship and business that takes place and is still taking place. Lloyd's Barbershop, a university. It's not a barbershop. You have to have an opinion when you go there, right? Yeah. In this country, my experience has been one to be vigilant. For the moment, the a cappella sensation that came out of Nova Scotia, they had a song that has always stayed in my heart. People who believe in freedom cannot rest. That's why you are all sitting here. That's why some days you are tired because you have to be talking to uplift people and then go to talk to the oppressors to help the aspirations of the people that you have been saying to them, keep hope, not keep hope alive, but dream the impossible. I just came back from Cuba yesterday, and one of the things that I was mindful of all the time was the brother Che. And every time I would see the posters, it would said, dream the impossible. That's the business that you are in, to make people think that they can dream the possible. And in my experience here in Toronto, I always go back to this notion of being vigilant. Being vigilant. I remember when I returned to Canada, and I reconnected with my mother. My mother said a number of things that became my mantra. This is where it is important that as parents, that we have conversations with our children. I like the fact that you referenced your daughter and the wisdom that she brought to your understanding. And my mother would say a couple of things. It was a mantra every day. You must make a decision in this country whether to be lonely or alone. See, again, the business that you are in. Are you walking by yourself or are you bringing others with you? And then she would say to me, you see the bus going by there? What you see in the bus? And I would say to her, I see 5 people. And she says, you must also understand in this society that sometimes the things you think you see are really not there. And then she said to me, you must also understand packaging in the North American society, because people can package up things pretty. You could look beautiful, but nothing really happening beneath the surface. Every day. And then she would also say to me, as a black woman, you must be able to understand rejection and be able to navigate rejection. I thank Gloria Emmeline Walcott for those words of wisdom that she reminded me about that almost every single day. Do you want to be lonely or alone? And you must always remember to stay vigilant. I remember as a young woman and as a student in university, and I had a summer job, and I worked with seniors, and I was good at it. And then the next year they said to me, oh my stars, you could be the leader of the group or the coordinator of the stuff. And I was excited. I was young and fearless and hot and think I had it all together. And then the first day I went to the job, the boss man called me in and he said, we have a problem. You know, they tell you that. You have a problem. Yeah. And I could smell the problem. I could smell the problem. And he said to me, it's nothing personal. I was like, racism is never personal. It's you and somebody talking in a room, but it's impersonal. You're talking to a crowd, right? But why you are qualified for the job, while you have demonstrated your potential, some of the people say, you know, you like that kind of point. I ain't talking. It's other people telling me to tell you that. But we can't give you the job. In that moment, I remembered the greatness of the nation that I came from, and I had the opportunity to grow up in. And I said to him, thank you for your lack of courage. And I shook his hand and walked through the door. And all the way home, I thought about that man. Here was a man who was not courageous in life. Why would I want to work for him? What would I anticipate or expect tomorrow? And all throughout my years, I have told myself, whatever the situation is, be vigilant. I'm going to fast forward now to many, many years. Last year, the bookstore was given the award for the 2016, the Premier's Award in Excellence in the Arts. A huge thing. You're up against AGO and every cultural industry in this nation. And in our little procession now to go into the big room, when you're going to know whether you win the award or whether this is a consolation prize moment. You know what I mean, right? And so the people in front of us are the individuals who are the finalists in the awards. And then there's a little break. And then there is my husband and I and the Premier of the province and the other organizations who are also now finalists in the organization categories. And as we are passing the security guard stops me and he says, do you have your invitation? And I remembered a couple of weeks before reading in the newspaper that Selwyn Peters, the lawyer, had a similar experience as he was going into the Upper Law Society of Canada or somewhere like this. Again, people who believe in freedom can never rest. You can never be napping at any time. You have to be vigilant, and you must be able to navigate that particular circumstance that you find yourselves in. I love Black Lives Matters. I love the fearlessness of them. They have done things that every single one of us sitting here dream about. We speak about it quietly. We imagine it in the shower. We imagine it in our dreams when we are super people, superheroes and sheroes. Yes, gonna take down the oppressors, boom, bam, right? And here comes a group of young people who have said, we are tired. We are tired because our parents are tired, and our grandparents are tired, and our children cannot be tired because people who believe in freedom can never rest. Yes. I am very, very pleased to be here with you today. I want to encourage you because the experience of the trade union movement is also have parallels with the experience of people of African descent. We need to be in spaces where people make us feel uncomfortable so we can disrupt those spaces. And anytime that I go into a space where for 1 second I think there is power in that room, I always remember I grew up in a nation of people in Barbados who were intellectuals, who were scholars, who were trade unionists, who affected the market economy, whose face is on a dollar and have value all those good things. So my brothers and sisters, in solidarity and in struggle, thank you for giving me this opportunity. The Black experience in this country is not simply one of pain and struggle, but we have come strong in this country as people from the Caribbean, from Africa, and every single day we must tell our children, and our allies must tell their children, that we proudly write our names on history page with expectations great.